Can you hear me now? That's good. You can hear me? I can't see your face. Can you hear me? It's all good? Okay.
Candidacy to see if they have the support around the state, and others have already declared that they are candidates in these races. So tonight we've invited guests to come and hear what they have to say and give them some support. We have the Office of Public Instruction, the state auditor, I'm looking around, governor race, the U.S. Congress race, and even a candidate for the U.S. Senate race. So we hope you enjoy our evening and stay live.
I have one question for you. What is your favorite thing about being in politics?
My favorite thing is the people, not just my constituents, but even these people that are here today that are elected officials. It has broadened my horizons, and I have friends from all over the state and now even all over the nation because we go to trainings. And I just think they're the cream of the crop people in the state of Montana, and I just really, really enjoy events and having them here and being able to rub shoulders with them.
Thank you, Miss Lola, and thanks for your service. Okay.
Are you live streaming right now? Hello? Hello? Hello. If you are a candidate, we are live streaming and we are doing some personal interviews over here in the corner. If you'd like to get some time with the people who are live streaming, if you'd like me to send you that link because somebody isn't here that you would like to hear this event, I have it on my phone. I can surely send that to you. So please take advantage of the graciousness of Shell and Scott who have come to live stream our event tonight. Thank you. We will start at 6:05 with the speeches.
Well, you just have to be the first one that got over here, so that'll work.
Maybe number one?
Sure, I'm fine. I'm like, I don't know Tom from Dick from Harry. That's my job. I'm just here to get people. I know it's, you're just you're caller. Because when you are live streaming and going with the flow, sometimes you have to like improvise on stuff, so you'll have to forgive my backup lighting. What's your
Title?
well? What's your name?
Representative Matthew Rosendale.
Okay, hold on.
Tanner's gonna photobomb me. I see.
You know what? You can. I think you should in just a minute, but he's already in office, so therefore, goodness. All right. Okay, so I'm going to shine this in. All right. All right, so we are live here with Representative Rosendale, and my first question for you is, why did you get into politics?
To serve the public. To serve the public. Oh.
Do your job.
Yeah.
Serve the public.
Yeah, to serve the public. When I was a young lad, my folks had a weekly newspaper, and I was brought up in a household that if you have the ability to do something, then you also have the responsibility to do it. My dad was big on public service, and by the time I was 20 years of age, I really recognized the impact that politics and elected officials had on our lives. I knew my county, my state, and my federal officials, and they knew me. I started growing a family and raising a business, so it took me a while before I really could dedicate the time necessary to serve the public properly. And at that time, the folks from Glendive, they recruited me. They asked me to run for office to help them have better representation, and that started the ball rolling that brought me to where I am today.
What is the biggest change or concern that you have for the state of Montana that you want to address?
The biggest thing that I want to address is returning as much of the decision-making power back to the communities, back to the state level. I had a young man that I interviewed to come to work for me, And when we finished up the interview, I basically gave him that softball question, where do you want to be in 10 years? And he told me, he wanted to be up on Capitol Hill and be a chief of staff or another representative or something like that. And when we finished up, I said, so what questions do you have for me? You can ask me about my family, about my politics, or about me personally, whatever. And he said, where do you want to be in 10 years? And I said, I want to be back at my ranch in Montana with Washington, D.C. in my rear view mirror, 1/3 the size it is today. And if we do that, then what we will do is force government to spend less, to stay out of our lives, and to focus on the things that they really should be doing, which is building highways and roads so that we can have commerce back and forth across the states, and actually building a strong military to protect us and securing our border.
What words of advice would you have for the young students today who might be thinking about going into politics?
I would tell anyone who's thinking about going into politics at a young age to look into the folks that you want to help. Number one, we hear that it's your right to vote. As I see it, it's your obligation to vote, but it's your obligation to cast an informed vote. And better yet, instead of just voting and thinking that you fulfilled your civic duty by just voting, don't pat yourself on the back. Go out there, do some research, find a candidate, whether that's for the local school board or for a federal office or for one of the state legislators. Find somebody that you believe in, that represents the values that you share, and then help them get elected. And by doing that, you will start having a much better understanding of how politics and elected officials impact your life.
Well, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it. That wasn't so scary, was it? No, it was kind of fun.
Go ahead, Troy.
Okay, that's it, boys. Rock, paper, scissors. Rock, paper, scissors, go. Oh, okay. Oh, my God. It's okay. Hold on, let me get, I need your name really quick.
Tanner
Wait, Tanner.
Smith.
Okay, just hold on. And you're running, right? Hold on. For governor, right?
Yep.
Sorry, this is our communication system.
Yep, back and
High
forth.
tech.
I like it, as long as it works.
It does our job. All right. Make sure my bonus lighting is on. All right. Hold on, I gotta get it. All clear? I'm looking for my dude over there. Scott, am I good to go live? Next one. All right, I have Tanner Smith here. He's a candidate for governor of Montana. My first question for you is, why did you want to get into politics?
Full honesty, I really had no desire to be in politics until they masked my children, and then we had a pot dispensary that went in adjacent to my kids' school. And these were direct policies that came out of the governor's office and our legislator that no one was there to have checks and balances on. So I felt the need to run for state House district, and I did, and I won. And it took me about 2 weeks in Helena to realize that Helena is broken. So that's why I'm running for governor. We need to have a constitutional conservative in the governor's seat with that pen to veto and amend these bills that come out of our legislature.
Hold on, so I'm going to assume that you have a list of things that you're concerned about for the state of Montana. What would be like your top 1 or 2 biggest concerns that you want to address?
Biggest concerns to address is the recreational dispensaries. You know, there are 400 in our state right now. If you par that against alcohol prohibition that stopped 95 years ago, there's 95 state agency liquor stores that the Department of Revenue has oversight and regulation of. So we have 95 agency liquor stores in 95 years. In 2 years of recreational dispensary, we have almost 400 recreational dispensary outlets that our Department of Revenue is trying to monitor and regulate, and that just physically can't be done. Brendan Beatty's a great guy, the director of the tax area, but he's overwhelmed with it, and you can't control that much stuff when it's that bad. When it's by the schools, it's a mess. The other issue is homelessness and crime. You know, Montana has lots of resources to take care of people that are from Montana, but we have a lot of bad actors that are not from Montana, and they need to leave the state. You know, our ship is sinking under the stress of these people taking advantage of our Samaritan House and our warming centers. There are reasons to have those, you know, for people that need those resources, but they're being abused, and it's to the point now where people are getting hurt. You know, we have young women in Missoula and Bozeman that are getting raped. We have a manager of the Fuel Fitness store in Kalispell that was shot and murdered by a homeless person. So the liberal experiment that we tried to do with bleeding hearts and trying to be nice to all these people it's not working because people are getting hurt. Our Montana residents are getting hurt.
What was your favorite subject in high school and why?
My favorite subject in high school was government class with my teacher, Dan Mullen, who was an amazing man that framed a lot of the reasons why we turned out as good as we did from Stevensville. That's where I was born and raised. I like government. I like the debating that we did, the different policies. You know, Mr. Mullen was a great teacher. We never knew what affiliation party he was with because he was so good at debating and making us all be critical thinkers. So I think that's what's lacking with our kids today. Not my kids. My kids are critical thinkers, but overall, the 30,000-foot view, you know, kids aren't critical thinkers anymore. And those are things that the government, you know, Dan Mullen taught me when I was a young child. Yep.
And finally, any words of advice for any students, young children who are looking at maybe going into politics or maybe making a positive impact in the state of Montana as adults, you know, like in government?
I would say for the youth out there, just get actively involved and engaged with what's going on. You know, we had in high school, and these are things that go way back, we had a consumer ed class that we took. Like the first 15 minutes was just current affairs, so you know what was going on in the world. And our kids don't have that now. Everything they get is through their iPhones, you know, and all you're getting there is just one side of the view, whether it's Yahoo News or TikTok, which is terrible. You know, kids need to engage and learn and find out what's going around them to be informed voters. That's the problem we have, is there's not enough informed voters.
Real news.
That's right, exactly. Thank you.
Well, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Thank you. Bye. Are you his chaperone?
Something like that.
Really? They don't let you out without a chaperone anymore, huh?
Well, he's my communications director, so
okay.
he's kind of
So,
follows my communicating.
communicating?
Yeah.
All right. Forgive me. Can you
My name is Troy Downing.
Troy Downey. Okay, sorry.
In Montana State.
So forgive my high-tech.
You know, that is very high tech. I like it.
All right. Scott, are you ready?
Look at you or look at the camera.
Look at me. I'm nicer.
There you go.
I'm sorry.
Just being clear.
All right. I'm here with Mr. Troy Downey. He's a state auditor. My first question for you is, why did you get into politics?
To make a difference. You know, it's going to sound a little bit corny, but you know, I grew up in a family of very little means. You know, a single-parent family. You know, not a lot of money. And I was successful, and I was successful because of the opportunities that I had as an American. And really, I'm almost embarrassed to say it, but one of the catalysts that really switched me from my professional career, you know, I started out in education. I taught at New York University as a research scientist, and then I was in technology and then commercial real estate and some other things. But what really was the catalyst for me was September 11th. And September 11th, when this nation was under attack, I had the opportunity to introspect. I mean, I was angry, I was sad, all those emotions that every American went through, that most of the people on the planet went through. But the other thing for me at that time was I thought, you know, this country's been good to me. I've been successful mostly because of the opportunities that I have as an American that have been freely given to me. I thought, what have I done to deserve this? What have I done to give back? And it bugged me because, you know, I'd given to charity, I'd supported things like that, but I'd never done anything truly meaningful. And what I decided to do at 34 years old is I walked into a recruiter's office and I joined the Air Force. So next thing you know, I'm doing combat search and rescue in Afghanistan. And that started it. And so, you know, 8 years in the military, And during that time, a lot of that was National Guard. It was just a little bit of active duty and a lot of National Guard. A couple of deployments to Afghanistan, a lot of domestic search and rescue and counter drug. But during that time, I started to build, some other businesses in real estate, commercial real estate, in insurance, and we raised money through independent broker dealers, so also in securities. And so in this office that I'm in right now, I'm the Commissioner of Securities and Insurance. When Commissioner Rosendale decided to become Congressman Rosendale, this seat was available. And I thought, when in the history of Montana has there been a Commissioner of Securities and Insurance that actually has a securities and insurance background? And I thought, what a great opportunity to give back. And so I ran for this office, and 3 years later, I'm still here.
Wait a minute. So I guess sit back for a second. Had there been somebody who had that background experience in that position before?
As far as I know, there have been, there's been lawyers there. There have been people that have had, some experience on one or the other. But as far as I know, I can't think of anybody that had a securities background and an insurance background running in that position. Yeah.
That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, so that's what got me into politics, and so here I am.
What is your only one now biggest concern for the state of Montana that you want to address or are working towards addressing?
Well, before I do that, can I go a little bit off script here for just a second?
There is no script, so you can't.
Okay, great. Well, there's just something that I want to that weighs heavy on my heart right now. I told you I'm a veteran. I care deeply about this country. I care deeply about national security. I care deeply about world events and things that affect us. And right now, one of our biggest allies in a place surrounded by our enemies is under attack. And that weighs very heavily on my heart. And I just want to, all the people who are listening, watching this right now, please join me in praying for Israel, for her people. Let's all pray that they can defend themselves, that those that have been lost, that we can send thoughts of comfort to their families, and that they can get through this in a very positive way, because what we're seeing is barbaric. It's horrible. I mean, they're equating it to their September 11th. I just told you my September 11th story. They're equating this as theirs because it's just such a tragic event, and I'm just hoping that everybody out there will just join me in praying for them. Yeah. So, in your question, what's the biggest thing for Montana? So I'm going to switch gears here, and it's hard with something that's so heavy like that. But yeah. Yeah, I think it is weighing heavily on everybody's hearts, and thank you for giving me that opportunity to talk about that. But some of the things that I deal with that I think are going to be hugely affecting Montana are misplaced ESG policies, environment, social, governance policies, where there are forces a lot of people don't understand are trying to make it difficult for companies that are in industries that they don't like to have access to capital markets, to money, to loans. On the other part, they're trying to make it difficult for them to ensure that. In other words, they are greenwashing industries they like, they're blacklisting ones they don't, and this is going to be a huge pressure on any state whose economy is based on natural resources, energy, or agriculture. That's something that I deal with in my office all the time. It's not just national, there's global pressures trying to change this, and it's something that we are working very, very hard in our office to hold at bay and to educate people so they know that this is coming from the back door. It's not a full frontal attack. Rather than just saying we're going to shut down your oil and gas or we're going to shut down your cattle operation, they're saying we're going to make it impossible for you to raise money or to insure your business. And that scares me.
I'm a little speechless after that because I didn't realize that was coming down the pike. That's a little scary.
If I can tell you just a really simple story, and this is just on the insurance side. A lot of people don't realize that your domestic insurers, they reinsure most of the risk. And most of these reinsurers are European. There's the Lloyd's of London's, most people have heard of that, the Swiss Re's, the Munich, there's all these big European reinsurers. And as this has been coming up to a head, we had a meeting, I'll say 6 months ago, with one of those big reinsurers, and they're talking about what they were pulling out of. They said they're pulling out of oil and gas. Okay, obviously, there's a lot of oil and gas jobs in Montana. They're pulling out of anything that they thought was a violation of human rights. I get that. They said they're pulling out of anything that was a violation of animal rights, and all of a sudden, hair on the back of my neck stood up. And so we're in a meeting with, all these different states there listening, and so everybody's nodding their heads, and all of a sudden the light from Montana goes up, and I'm saying, okay, first of all, thanks for being part of this dialogue. It's good. This is helpful to understand each other, or try to understand each other. But what you just told me really scared me. I said, I live in a state with 1.1 million people and 2.5 million cows. We plan on eating those cows. Is that going to be a problem? And the answer I got wasn't no. Yeah, and so this is just one of those pressures that we need to be cognizant of, that we need to make sure that we have a seat at the table and that they're hearing some counterpoint. And somebody asked me why I got involved with the International Association of Insurance Supervisors. It's because I want to make sure that the European insurers, that these provide so much of this reinsurance that we have, understand that the United States of America is the largest market in the world, and we have concerns, and make sure that it's not an echo chamber of folks that think and talk like them, and they're getting the other side of the story so that we can start heading it off at the pass before it's too late. Because if they get their way and they flip that switch and all of a sudden they've greenwashed everything they like and they've blacklisted everything that they don't like, what they're not talking about is the transition risk. What that's going to do to everybody in the middle and below, actually above the middle and below, that's not going to be able to afford transportation, food, heat, energy. They don't understand how impossible that's going to be if they get their way and just flip that switch to just normal Americans. And we need to be cognizant, and we need to be fighting this.
I'm going to go off script now and say, what was your favorite subject in high school?
Oh boy, off script, favorite subject in high school. And this is going to sound a little weird, and it's going to make me sound a little bit nerdy. I was a math major in college, and what really inspired that is much younger, when I had somebody first explain to me the fundamental theorem of calculus. And it just blew my mind. I said, that works. Who designed this universe? It was this epiphany that I saw the hand of God in what made this universe work through math.
That's great.
So there you go.
Well, thank you so much for your time. I greatly appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, bye. set up.
Perfect.
That backup light in here. And who are you? Sorry.
I can do it if you'd like me to.
No, I can't. My smartphone is being stupid.
Never owner operator.
No, it's the phone. Trust me. All right. Scott, are we good? All right, I am here with our state, Miss Elsie of the State Office of Public Instruction, and sorry, I'm gonna get the good light on you too there. I am curious, why did you want to get involved with politics?
Thank you so much. Classroom teacher, and our school board out of Billings was doing a healthcare package, and this is way before Obamacare, and the school board was dysfunctional. So I was not part of the union, but I joined the union after that, and it was because it was the last best final offer, and I had a growing family. And so I went in and walked the picket line. We were out for 13 days, taught me a tremendous a lot. And then what I did is I walked myself to Helena. My legislative district, Southside Billings, was where I taught. So I was so excited that when the children walked through that classroom door of mine, I knew exactly where they lived. I knew their families, and I never judged them. And it made me a much better, honest legislator because I recognized my constituents. From the time they were very young, I went to birthday parties, I went to funerals, I went to boxing matches, I went to soccer games. I did everything that I could to try to understand who I was serving.
We're totally off script here. So what was your favorite subject in high school?
Math. Math, why? Because there's an answer at the end of it. I'm really good with writing, and I can put words together, and I can even make up my own words and be very emotional or sad or put that figurative language to work. But what's exciting about math is it's not how you get there, it's that there is a there. The other part that I really liked about it was there's some things that haven't been solved yet, which means those proofs that are still on the wall are a puzzle. I love puzzles. Always don't even have them just out around on Christmas time. We put puzzles all the time. But I believe math. Math is a fabulous way for a mind to work. And we have a right brain and we have a left brain, especially in education. Some people do it better than others, and I'm just really blessed that I can do math well.
Okay. What is your single biggest concern for the students of Montana right now that you would like to try to address?
Thank you. I know teachers work hard, and I know our students are working hard, but the tool for assessment is broken. When we had No Child Left Behind went away, and that was with the Bush's years. And then I got a brand new one that came under Obama, that is Every Student Succeed Act. They're trying to put a measurement in place that doesn't measure appropriately. And as a result, we've been working through at the state agency a different type of measurement, not at the end of the year test, but a testlet model where 5 times a year, students with 15 minutes, a teacher talks to them, and it's an assessment that's very valid. And then we aggregate up all those scores and we submit that to the federal government. We're the only one in the nation doing that. So yes, teachers are working hard. Our students are also working hard, but how we can measure that is what I've changed.
Who are speaking, take the front row, please.
Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it, but it's looking like we're going live big time, so thank you so much.
Blessings to all our families. I want to say this. Our families and our parents are our first and forever teachers. So blessings to our families.
Thank you. No, but I get you like afterwards, I promise. I will tell Scott that we'll make sure we get you in, okay?
Bruce Williams out of Fergus County. He brought together and invited candidates to travel through Middle Montana, and here we are on the last stop in Great Falls, so we appreciate your attendance tonight. I would also like to thank Shell and Scott, who are doing a live streaming tonight. Their company's name is Sky Motion Productions, and they are on YouTube. And if I would have brought my phone up here, I would have told you to look that up on YouTube. Sorry. If you have a friend who can't be here and you'd like them to see what's going on tonight, if they just Google in Big Race, Last Stop, Great Falls on YouTube.com, they can pick up what's going on tonight. I will start the program tonight with a prayer, and since I didn't find anybody, I will do that myself and then lead you in the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you would please stand. Our Father in heaven, we are grateful tonight to meet as a community and to listen to those who are willing to step up and serve our country in the capacities that they have chosen and are led to be there in these races. We are grateful for the principles that make us strong. When we look to you, we ask for your guidance in all that we do. We ask for a blessing on this meeting, that thy presence will be here, that we may hear truth and that we might be able to discern those things that are important as our races move forward. And we ask for your blessing in all of our travels and all that we do. And we do this humbly in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. There are programs on your Chair, but we're going to do it backwards. So we will start with the race of the auditor, and then we'll jump to the race of the governor, and hopefully by then all three candidates will be here for OPI. And again, we'll do those backwards. So the order will be from the bottom to the top. And we have our local elected officials who will be introducing our candidates. I'm just going to make a disclaimer. It doesn't necessarily mean that they are endorsing them tonight, but they could be, but they're not going to make that announcement either. They're just here to introduce our candidates and to let you know who your local elected officials are. So we will end with our honored guest, Congressman Matt Rosendale. So if we would like to start with Representative Fred Anderson. And please introduce yourself as the elected representative.
Thank you, Lola. I'm Fred Anderson. I represent House District 20 here in Great Falls. In my fourth term as a representative. My pleasure tonight to introduce to you James Brown. He was elected to the Public Service Commission in 2020. James feels it's both an honor and a privilege to represent the people of the state of Montana, and James works hard every day to fairly represent the interests of regulated entities and taxpayers. A Dillon native, James is a fourth-generation Montanan. In the 19th century, James' great-grandfather homesteaded in the Grasshopper Valley, located in Beaverhead County. James' grandfather, Jack Brown, developed the Elkhorn Hot Springs and Lodge located near Polaris. James is a member of the Beaverhead County High School class of 1989, is also a graduate of the University of Montana, Missoula, with double major in political science and history and a minor in Spanish. After college, James worked 6 years in Washington, D.C. in the congressional offices of Senator Conrad Burns, Senator Chuck Hagel, Republican from Nebraska, and Representative Judy Biggert, Republican from Illinois, as her legislative director. Following his time in the nation's capital, James attended law school at the Seattle University School of Law, earning his Juris Doctorate in 2004. He then obtained a master's in tax law from the University of Washington, Seattle in 2005 while clerking for Jerry Alexander, the Chief Justice of the Washington State Supreme Court. Brown returned home to Montana in 2006 and has engaged in private practice of law since that time, primarily representing agricultural producers and small businesses. James is licensed to practice law in the states of Washington and Montana. He also has a Montana Insurance Producer's License. James is pleased to represent Montana on 2 national NARUC committees, the Committee on Gas and the Committee on Internal Relations. James is an avid outdoorsman with hiking, backcountry camping and fishing, as well as mountaineering being his favorite pursuits. James also enjoys international travel, reading, and baseball. It's my pleasure to have Jim Brown up to the podium, and please welcome him.
Well, good evening, everybody. What an honor it is to be the first one up tonight. Hopefully my remarks are shorter than my bio. Apparently. So I am James Brown, and I know what you're all thinking, and the answer is I do feel good. Those of you who followed along with my state Supreme Court race last year will remember that. It was my opening monologue for my state Supreme Court race. Unfortunately, of course, I did not prevail in my Supreme Court race last year. But the good news in that race, I think, is several-fold. First, I outperformed every challenger to an incumbent Supreme Court justice in the history of the state of Montana. The second thing is, I think because of the fight that I put up against the incumbent justice, that incentivized, if you will, the 2 incumbent Supreme Court justices not to run for re-election in 2024, and that's extremely important. The Chief Justice position and one of the Associate Justice positions are open. At this point in time, we have a really good candidate for the Associate Justice position. His name is Judge Wilson out of the Kalispell area. I want you to take out a pen, write down Judge Wilson, and when you see that name on the ballot box next year, please vote for him. I'm here today appearing, of course, as a Public Service Commissioner. I was elected in 2020 to represent the southwest corner of Montana. I'm not your commissioner. Of course, Randy Pinocci is. But even so, I've been honored and privileged to serve in that position. With that being stated, you probably saw in your program that I am considering and exploring running for state auditor in 2024. Of course, that all depends on whether Congressman Rosendale, who's here tonight, Matt, good to see you, decides to run for U.S. Senate, and if he does, then we'll see if Troy Downing runs for U.S. Congress. And if he does, then I'd be privileged and honored to be your candidate for that position. So with that being stated, the one thing I would like to talk about tonight is you may have seen, and I hope you have seen, that my friend Tony Hudson and I from Stevensville, was that the timer, by the way? My friend Tony Hudson and I from Stevensville are running an initiative to appear on the 2024 ballot. It's a great one. We are running an initiative, I-192, to designate American Rodeo as the official state sport of Montana. As you can imagine, this is going to be a popular initiative, I think. Why are we running it? Because the American Rodeo is both the embodiment of the historic Montana way of life and a celebration of our unique Western culture. The rodeo encompasses all the values that make Montana great, including rugged individualism, hard work, and responsible stewardship. So designating the American Rodeo as our official state sport makes sense. I brought with me tonight sign-up sheets to get the required number of signatures for getting the referendum onto the ballot. We need over 30,000 signatures, so we got a way to go, but I'd appreciate it if you would endorse that. And with that being said, thank you for all you do on behalf of Liberty and all you do on behalf of Republican candidates. Lola, thank you for putting this on tonight, Steve Galloway and the other members of the Cascade Central Committee. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'll end as I always do. God bless America, and enjoy this evening.
I'm Representative Russ Miner in House District 19, which is a rural part of Cascade County. I'm here to introduce Tanner Smith. Tanner Smith was born and raised in Montana. He has a strong focus on restoring Montana values and preserving the cherished way of life that Montanans hold so dear. He learned these values early while in the Boy Scouts, hiking the Selway Bitterroot Wilderness. Tanner played in state football and basketball championships on Montana fields and in Montana gyms. Tanner's silver bullet will be the governor's pardon. Tanner Smith is a candidate for governor and has lived the Montana way of life in his entire life. Please join me in welcoming Tanner Smith, candidate for governor of Montana.
Thank you, Russ. We actually cut down my bio a little bit for time reasons, but that was good. You did a great job. Yes, my name is Tanner Smith. I'm a third generation Montana born and raised child. I was born in Stevensville, happily married, father of 5. Been an excavation contractor in Lakeside for the past 30 years. Like many of you sitting out there, I had no interest in being in politics whatsoever until they masked my kids at school in Lakeside and Summers. That prompted me to run for the school board, which I was on. And then we had a pot dispensary shop that went in adjacent to my kids' playground, which is completely unacceptable. So that prompted me to run for my state House representative seat, which I won, which is House District 11. The marijuana pot issue, obviously it's been around the state, but it's a bad policy, and Greg Gianforte let that leave his desk with basically no regulations. So I went to Helena fully committed to change things, and I got to Helena in about 2 weeks and realized that there is no way that things are going to change in Helena unless I'm the governor that has that pen at the end of the line, because Helena is broke. With marijuana, the more people that use, the more people that will abuse it, and the more people that will lose in our state because of it. I stand up here in front of you today actually embarrassed to be a Republican, because I've read our Republican platform front to back, and there's nowhere in there where it says drug legalization is one of our planks. Do we want more jobs? Yes, we do. But do we want more jobs if it involves dealing drugs? We do not. Okay. I'm just going to give you some numbers real quickly here. Since alcohol prohibition ended, 95 years ago, there are now 95 state agency liquor stores that the DOR is tasked with regulating. So we have 95 years, 95 liquor stores. In 2 years, since legalized marijuana has been allowed, we now have 400 pot dispensaries in our state. So when you walk around and you see the signs that say help wanted, there's issues that are involved with that. Why is our law enforcement burnt out? Well, there's a lot of people addicted to drugs, and all that stuff dovetails into the marijuana. You don't take my word for it. 14 other states have tried this. California, Washington, and Colorado have all tried it. Today, we have 4 times more dispensaries per capita than Colorado. Bear in mind that Denver has the worst crime rate in the nation. So we're just now beginning to see the effects of marijuana and what it's going to have on our state. And that's all Greg Gianforte and our legislators in 2021. Law enforcement professionals were not thought of. Our mental health professionals were not thought of. And the 180,000 kids in our state were not thought of when I-190 was passed and put into law. I stand here before you. I'm a constitutional conservative. I will not compromise on issues like drug legalization, woke ideology, and protecting our women and children, as well as the Second Amendment. Montana is our home. Okay, this is our only home. This is the only home that I've ever known, so it is worth protecting. I'm not a millionaire that can move to another state, because this is my state. This is the state that I will die in. Montana is the treasure state. We have lots of treasure, lots of natural resources that we are not using. There's no logging, there's no mining, everything's been shut down. Greg Gianforte has the Good Neighbor Authority, which is kind of a joke. That's regarding logging, because I'm from the Northwest. Just to put things into perspective, with this Good Neighbor Authority, it sounds good, but it's smoke and mirrors. The Dodge logging project was 44 acres. Okay, that puts it into perspective for you. The Liger logging operation was 386 acres. Okay, that's 400 acres we're logging in Montana versus what's burning in Montana. Because I'm from the Northwest and we're tired of the smoke. So we're burning anywhere from 700,000 to 1 million acres of forest every year, and we're only logging about 400 just on those small sales. If we get back to using our natural resources like logging and mining, then all these property tax issues will go away. We're debating this 95 mills right now. That's because that tax base has been shifted to the residents. We need to get back to how it was in the 90s, where we're logging and we're mining and we're tapping these natural resources cleanly, so we can have more money and more tax base and give our property owners some relief. The way we're going to do this is through the pardoning power. If it's on state land and there's state contracts, when the left wants to issue an injunction, we're going to tell our loggers to go ahead and log it, because you're going to get a pardon from the governor. Before you start that project, you'll know you'll have the full weight of the governor's office behind you, so keep logging. That's how we fight back against the judiciary branch, which is way out of control right now. These are serious times, and they take serious leaders. We have a real problem with our homelessness and the crime. I tried to pass House Bill 959, which was the Vagrancy, Panhandling, and Soliciting Act. We couldn't get anything done with that this last session. So, am I being waved at 5? Gotcha. Yeah. I'll finish it up here by saying these are serious times. Greg's trying to get a data center going in Polson, which the people don't want in Polson. We have a little cabin on Flathead Lake. In 84 years, Flathead Lake has been at full pool. This year it was at 3 feet. There's been a lot of big business dealings made with the tribes. They want to build a data center in Polson, which will take more water from our farmers and ranchers who need that for farming. I'll always put farming and ranching first. We have a dual justice system in Montana. There's a lot of issues nationally we see with our President Trump going through, and we also have dual justice here in the state. You know, there was the insurrection January 6th. Some of those people are serving 22 years in jail. Well, we had the transurrection here at our Helena Capitol, and I wish that Governor Gianforte, under 215-201, would have instructed Austin Knudsen, our Attorney General, to prosecute those people. No one got in trouble for that whatsoever, period. 7 people were charged, booked, and released at 80 apiece. They raised $33,000 in 12 hours for the legal fund of those people that were supposed to go to jail or do something, and they ended up getting nothing. So, in closing, I'm getting waved off. I'm asking for your vote. I know what I'm up against in this race, but you know, being courageous is contagious. You know, we need to save this state, and I'm asking for your vote. I will not let you down. So just follow me. Let me lead this state back to how it's supposed to be. I've been born and raised here. I know what it's supposed to look like, and the wayward direction we're headed is not where we need to be going. So thank you.
I'm Representative Lowell Sheldon Galloway, representing House District 22 here in Great Falls on the west side of Great Falls. I am introducing tonight Kevin Leatherbarrow, who is a Libertarian candidate, and he sent this to me, and it's really small, so I hope you bear with me. Kevin was raised in Western New York in farm country, where he received his master's degree in education from the University of Buffalo and taught in the inner cities. He also taught in charter schools. He has always been drawn to Montana, and so he took a teaching position on the Northern Cheyenne Reservation in 2015. Kevin's life revolves around education and the outdoors. He moved his family into Great Falls in 2016, where he now resides. He and his wife opened a tutoring center in 2017, where they also advocate for homeschoolers and children receiving special education. His main platform are school choice and fiscal responsibility. Please welcome Kevin Leatherbarrow, a candidate for Office of Public Instruction.
Well, thank you. I really didn't know I was going to speak today, but thank you, Lola, for inviting me. I really appreciate it. She didn't know that I had gone ahead and entered into the race. As she says, yes, I know a big thing at times is that I am from out of state, and I am so tired of hearing that, because if you live out of state, you know what it is like to be repressed. And if you come from New York State, boy, do you know. So since I was a little boy, about that high, I used to sit around and I used to read these beautiful magazines of Montana. Oh, the elk, the fly fishing, the hunting, and everything else. So I worked my tail off so I can get my master's degree and teach across this country so I can make my way here. A little while back, though, Montana wasn't really hiring teachers. Oh boy, what a difference now, huh? So I waited in Utah for a little while, where I was able to teach in some really cool charter schools. And one was for special education and those kids and needs. And it thrived. Most of it was specializing in autism and other things. But it was still open to the public no matter what. It didn't matter if you had a special need. It didn't matter. You were still invited into the school. After serving there for 4 years, like she said, I decided to move to Montana. I finally found my place where I could. I had some principal ideas and prospects, but I just wasn't ready for that yet. So I decided to obviously teach on the Northern Cheyenne Indian Reservation in Ashland. I simply loved it, although it wasn't a place for my family. So we looked and we came west. I wanted to be closer to the rivers. However, they didn't tell me about the wind here. They left that out of the brochure. I don't know why they left it out of the brochure, but they sure do leave it out of, back in Buffalo region where I'm from, that you're going to get 96 inches of snow in probably 4 or 5 hours. So that was a thing that I had to kind of contend with. But I would, I think I heard it here, I would die for this state. Being here and understanding what it is like, and I'm hearing what is across this country right now, let alone back in my state, and I have asked them to move. You want those people like me to come here who's going to fight for your state and fight for your children and fight for your kids. And that's what I am looking to do running for state superintendent of schools. Yes, I'm a big component of charter schools. I love homeschooling. I love that we have a bill here now ready for those homeschoolers, ready for those kids to receive that voucher system. But I was very disappointed when I called up there and they told me it wouldn't be ready till 2024-25 season. They don't even have a department for them. And the parents had to put up for it first before they could come see a service like mine. My service brings in those special ed kids, helps them, gets them back to where they need to be, helps them read, helps them to get to be efficient in society as we stand. And that's why I'm up here today. No, I didn't want to run again, and I know there's some of them in this crowd that know me. My wife is deathly afraid of me running for politics. I'm not a politician. All right, I am not. But I know what our kids need, I know where we're going, and I know I can help in a very large manner. I have been there, I have seen it, I've seen charter schools work, I've seen we have that on the ballot, we have it, we're fighting for it right now. I'm a large advocate of it. I did talk with Windy Boy back in, I think it was 2015, on charter schools, and I didn't think it was going to go anywhere, to tell you the truth. But Representative Windy Boy and others, many more, they're probably sitting here today, got that going and moved it forward. That was astounding. I couldn't believe it as we moved through. We have a fight with the unions. Our backs are up against the wall with the unions here. We need to hit them guys head on, in my view, and really find a way that we can work with this and them in some way, shape, or form. My biggest platforms too is also safety in our schools. I'm talking with Sheriff Slaughter. He's got a great plan for school safety. I know he's talked to Tom up on the Hill already. I want to talk to more sheriffs around this state. I am intolerant of what's happening with not having enough safety in our schools, along with the bullying and other things that are happening as our parents. I hear it every day because they come to my facility and they tell me this. And they are removing children to come and see me. My homeschooling program that I run helps them get back into school, actually. It doesn't pull them necessarily all the time. They can attend school and see me. We get them ready for the education, and we get them ready, and we take them back, and we send them back into schools. I think charter schools can work the same way. You don't have to stay in charter schools. You can go back and forth. You don't have to stay in one area or the other. And yes, I've read our Constitution, our state Constitution, very, very closely. And I think it does fit within that. I know it fits in that. And I hope they make the right decision up and coming on these laws coming up right now. I hope they make the right decision. So on the grounds of school safety, I'll be working with that. I would like to, like I said, talk to more sheriffs, talk with them on the way there. But I'm going to work with Jesse first. I want to see what he has to say with that and how it's going. He has a great plan. Is that my 5 minutes? Okay. I hope you guys will consider me. I do want to work. I love working with you guys. I really do. Thank you, Lola, for letting me come here today and actually talking with you guys. And I hope to see you check my name on the ballot. Thank you.
Good evening, folks. I'm Wendy McCamey, Senator from Senate District 12. And I'm here to introduce to you Cheryl Allen, who is a firm follower of Jesus Christ, a Montanan by birth, who cherishes our American birthright, is a teacher at heart, a change agent by conviction and courage, purposeful in being the sword carrier for kids, battle-tested leader, believer in the potential of each child, and excellence-driven. Cheryl has been in public education for over 40 years. In that 40 years, she has taught everything from little tiny schools to great big schools, most recently having served as the deputy in OPI. And that journey has been a very interesting journey. She is also a 20-year member of Rotary, and she's been honored for various accomplishments, but she considers it her highest honor to have been honored by the Student Staff Award and receiving the Student Staff Award. It was the only time the students chose a superintendent for this award, and that meant the world to her. She has also, I could tell you much, much more, but we have 5 minutes here, and it's a total. And she firmly stands for kids. She's battle-tested as she led the vision of personalization of learning, proficiency-based, blended learning, and more. There is no question that she is a change agent, always looking at what can be done better for our kids. It often brings a little, I would say, a little resistance, maybe deep resistance might be more accurate, because status quo is hard to buck in any organization. And it's difficult in education to be a change agent. But she has taught ages 7 through 20, principal K through 12, been a high school district superintendent, and a K through 12 superintendent in small and large settings. She has been in education since the 1980s and has seen and experienced a tremendous change. And she has been part of that change. She has helped to transform the education landscape in Montana, and I give you Cheryl Allen. Please welcome her.
Thank you, Lola and Steve, Central Committee here in Cascade County, for having us here. And thank you, Senator McCamey, for your heartfelt words. I have 2 goals for the short time we have together for you. The first one is that you open your hearts and your minds to what you're going to hear. The second one is that when you leave tonight, you are resolved to take action. Just those 2. Folks, these are times like none other. These are times like none other, both with opportunities and with challenges. We live in the age of technology that is changing the landscape of most everything, including how people learn and what our children have access to. Furthermore, we live in the era of the philosophies of men and women, sprinkled with a little bit of truth, to change the culture, the values, and the mores of this nation and this state. We are in a battle. I'll take Senator McCamey's lead. We are in a war for the hearts and minds of our children. We can no longer be bystanders on the sidelines saying life's busyness just doesn't allow me. We can no longer hope that someone else takes care of things. We can no longer identify that I've raised my kids. That's what my daughter would say. I'm 30 years old now, Mom. Go do your thing. But parents never let go of their kids. No matter what their age is, they're always there. And we need our families to be in this war. We need you to be in this war. I'm going to give you 2 examples. I know our time is short. I had a grandmother call me 2 weeks ago. She said, Cheryl, I am worried for my grandchildren and what they're coming home with. They have ideas that are quite unusual, such as it's okay to have feelings for the other gender, even sexual in nature. She goes, we don't teach that in our families. We don't teach that in our families. I was a couple months ago in a meeting with a county school superintendent. Since leaving the OPI, I had 3 things I needed to take care of in this specific order. Commitment to faith and the responsibilities that brings. Second, commitment to family, as my youngest sister in July was diagnosed with cancer, and it has been a battle. And she said, I'm not strong enough. I'm not strong enough for this. Well, our family said, together we're strong enough. I would take that message to us. Together we're strong enough for the wars and battles that are raging. And the third was to ensure that I was well and regrounded in the work of serving kids up close and personal. And so took on a small K-12 as their superintendent and principal. Those 3 things were vital for this battle. County school superintendent meeting. It was about the books that should be in our libraries for our small children, our young children, from LGBTQ to gender identification, to look at the color of your skin. And some of us should feel embarrassed if our skin color is too light because of the oppression we have been involved in with others. I'm getting the signal to wrap it up. I leave this with you, that this is a war. You know it, and I know it. We cannot be on the sidelines, and this is why I am running, to be your next state superintendent. I am tried and tested. I am battle-worn. I am battle-weary, yet I keep coming back for more. Join me. We can't do this without you. Join me. Well, let me finish with this. So one of the high motivators for kids is robust clapping and standing ovations. So I know you can do much more in robust clapping.
Hey, good evening. My name is Ed Hill, past representative, 2021, House District 28, now changed to 27, which I think is a deal that expanded a little bit, but it is my pleasure to say a little bit about Susie Hedlund. Susie Hedlund is the superintendent for Townsend School District and vice chair of Montana Board of Public Education. She previously served as deputy superintendent for Montana Office of Public Instruction and has extensive experience working in the K through 20 school system throughout the state. Susie understands the school funding streams and is experienced in managing federal programs at the school and state level. Susie graduated from Montana State University Bozeman with a bachelor's in elementary education, a master's in educational leadership, and a certificate in Native American Studies. Help me to introduce, welcome, Susie Hedlund. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the introduction. Thank you, Lola, and all of you here for welcoming me tonight, and thank you all of you for being here. I'm blessed to be with all of you this evening. I am Susie Hedlund. I'm running for Montana State Superintendent because my goal is to bring education back to basics. We need to make sure that our students have the opportunities to learn reading, writing, arithmetic, and cursive, just as we were all taught in school. We have the ability, and I believe we can stay strong in Montana and keep our education system strong. We need to make sure that we are supporting parents, listening to them, and our school boards and our teachers, and building those relationships between them so this happens transparently, because parents have the right to know what their students are learning and that they're safe in school. I believe we can do this, and I don't believe parents need to be scared to send their students to school. I currently work in Townsend School District, as was stated, and I love greeting my students every morning. I will be tomorrow morning. And those parents feel confident in sending their students to my school because I do this every day. And we work through a transparent system, as I have in every district I've been in. Whether I've been at Arrowhead School District, an immigrant, or currently in Townsend, we put the books out there for the public to see. We invite everyone. We spend a year. We ask the teachers what they feel passionate about teaching and sharing with their students, and make sure they have the buy-in on the curriculum that is selected. And this needs to be done individually in every community and district in our state, because they are all very different. I worked in our rural schools across the state to our AA. And in every district, we have this opportunity to involve parents, increase family engagement. When I was the principal in Livingston, we threw a back to school barbecue, and we did math games, we did technology. We made sure the parents had access to all the portals to get their students information. And we had over 500 parents turn out when they had a hard time getting 100 parents there in the past. We can do these things. We can work together to do these things. I'm prepared. I've accomplished it. And that is why I am the best candidate for this seat for Montana State Superintendent, because I know we can do this in Montana. We can stay strong in education in Montana. Governor Gianforte appointed me to the Board of Education because I have done these things, and because I will stay strong for our schools. I will support our students. I will ask for our teachers' input. I will make sure we listen to our parents' concerns. And we can all accomplish this because we all have our students in our heart, and that's why we do the things we do every day. That's why I go to work every day for children, and I have across the state. I am just thinking of while I was driving into Great Falls, all the incredible experiences I've had here, for example. When I was with the Montana State University, I had the opportunity to observe student teachers and give them feedback, and many of my student teachers were here in Great Falls, and I got to see incredible lessons in the classrooms and rock star teachers here. Jordan Langford does an incredible job of bringing tribal strengths into the school so that those students can connect with their culture as well as learn those critical concepts that we're talking about that we want to make sure every student in Montana receives. And we need to make sure that our students have relevant opportunities and experiences to prepare them for their future, to prepare them for apprenticeships, for the skilled trades, to get them dual credit opportunities so they can attend college and already have a head start. These are things that we can partner on and work together with the Department of Labor, with our governor's office, and with the incredible lawmakers and our legislators that are doing the great work to expand the flexibilities for us to make all of this happen. So I thank you for being with me tonight. My husband and I live outside of Townsend on Canyon Ferry Lake, in between Townsend and Helena, and we've resided there for many years, and I've had an incredible opportunity to serve throughout Montana, and also loved looking at the river tonight. I have spent as many times as I could getting out and getting a trip down floating down the Missouri, one of my favorite pastimes this summer. So hopefully next weekend we'll get out antelope hunting. This was important for me to do this weekend because state superintendent is a really tough position. I understand that, but it's also very important, and we need to hold on to this seat. I would appreciate your support for Montana State Superintendent. Thank you.
everybody. Quick correction. Don't think me, I had very little to do with this other than I helped suggest the venue. And since our reorganization of our central committee wasn't quite together, we need to give a round of applause to George Nikolakoulis for stepping up and funding this facility. His generosity helped make this come to fruition. So my job tonight is to introduce Rick Holden. I'm Stephen Galloway. I'm currently serving House District 24, which will be through redistricting House 20. I'm in my second session, so hopefully I'll serve a couple more. Anyway, Rick Holden is a rancher and former state senator from Dawson County. Rick and his wife Jan have been married for 41 years. I beat him by one. And have been actively operating the family ranch for the past 33 years. Rick is a member of many of the Montana farm organizations, including Montana Stock Growers, Montana Farm Bureau, Montana Wool Growers Association. He is also a member of the Montana Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association, as well as the National Rifle Association. While in the state Senate, Rick received legislative A ratings from all of these above organizations. He served as chair of the Senate Agricultural Committee and vice chair of Senate Transportation Committee. He also served as chairman on the Special Select Water Rights Committee. He is a graduate of Montana State University Bozeman with degrees in business management and a double major in business finance and business marketing. Please welcome to the stage, Rick Holden.
Thank you, and we have a great turnout here today. It's nice to see all of you, and a great opportunity for me to meet some of my old friends. Specifically, Dale Jackson is here, which I've known for many years. I didn't know he was going to be here, and it was really nice to see him again. So yes, agriculture is Montana's #1 industry. And I have been involved in agriculture all of my adult life and most of my bringing up as well. I think it's important that we elect somebody to represent Montana's Eastern District that has some real practical experience in agriculture. I've always been actively involved, so when it comes to agriculture, it comes real natural to me. I have no problems discussing agriculture with anybody, and I know that when we go to Washington, D.C., there are a lot of people there that just don't get it. But for us, it's not only a way to derive an income, but it is our identity. It's our identity of who we are as Montanans. So whether you're actually on the farm doing the work or you're operating a business in town, the ag dollar drives everything in eastern Montana. Another thing that is very important to eastern Montana is our coal industry and our oil industry. Both have been demonized by the Liberals, even in the state of Montana, as well as those in Washington. And we need to turn that around and start promoting those two industries as well. I have at home a tourist book that was published in 1990. And at that time, the geologists had gone out into eastern Montana to figure out how much coal reserves we actually have. And you know what they found out? We have 9,000 years of coal in eastern Montana. That is a great resource. God gave those to us. He gave those to us to use to our benefit. And we need to do that. We need to stop throwing away what God has given us, and we need to use it. So I would do just that. Last summer, the Biden administration carried out the Obama administration's agenda of destroying our electrical generation plant in Sydney. They actually went there, tore buildings, and then on the last day, before they brought in the payloaders to haul off the rubble, they blew up the stack. We have nothing left in Sydney, Montana to generate electricity with. We had jobs down in Savage, the coal mine there that dug the coal and brought it to Sydney to be used to generate electricity. We don't have the electricity we need now to send out into the Bakken oil fields to pump our oil out of the ground. So for us, it was a double whammy. We not only lost a way to generate electricity, but we also lost a precious resource in that we can't bring it up out of the ground, which is oil. When I drove over here today at 11:30 this morning, I drove by Geyser, Montana. Up on the hill, I counted about 40 wind turbines that are used to generate electricity. And you know what? At 11:30 this morning, when I drove by, I saw 3 of them turning. Okay, just 3. I'm just saying, 3 out of 40 were generating electricity. We are not going to be able to go forward in this country with the lack of electricity generation. That has got to change. We need that base rate electricity provided to our people and to the rest of the people in this country. And we can do it with coal and oil, and we can do it responsibly. The Biden administration is corrupt. We know that. Let's look at the southern border, just for example. We have thousands of people coming across the southern border legally. They're bringing drug cartels, they're bringing drugs, they're bringing sex traffickers, they're bringing prostitution, and they're bringing everything else that we can't even imagine that they're bringing. We have to stop that. We just have to stop. And unfortunately, it might involve bringing in the military. But we have to stop that. We have to stop that border. Of course, is that my ringer? Okay. All right. You had me worried. Let me end with this. The sanctity of life. God brought all of us here for a reason, and we are going to go forward under His plan. God is the one in charge of everything, and I firmly believe that. I cannot, and I never will, and never have proposed any kind of legislation that would kill an innocent little baby. And I never will. So let's think about that as we move forward concerning the sanctity of life. With that, I would appreciate your vote this June for Congress.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Representative George Nikolakakos. I represent the eastern half of Great Falls, including Malmstrom Air Force Base. I have the pleasure tonight to introduce Troy Downing, a fellow Air Force veteran, so that's always a good thing. Troy was elected Montana State Auditor in 2020. Let me get this done here. As State Auditor, Commissioner of Securities and Insurance, Troy Downing oversees the criminal justice agency protecting Montana's consumers by ensuring fairness, transparency, and access for 2 of the state's largest industries, securities and insurance. Commissioner Downing began his career in education as a research scientist and educator at the Curtin Institute of Mathematics Science at New York University. In the 1990s, he founded a technology startup company and successfully merged it with Yahoo Incorporated. He then went on to other startup companies succeed through seed funding and mentorship. After his career in the tech industry, Commissioner Downing funded a nationwide commercial insurance company and a national real estate firm that creates and sells and manages real estate investment securities. Commissioner Downing sense of purpose and public service includes after 9/11 in the United States Air Force, Air National Guard, serving years in a combat search and rescue squadron, and serving 2 tours of duty in Afghanistan. Today, he continues his veterans as a volunteer and former board member of the Warriors and Quiet Waters Foundation. Troy.
Seems everybody has to adjust this. First of all, for everybody here, I want to thank you for all of your bravery, for your incredible bravery, because there is really nothing more dangerous than giving a microphone to a politician. So thank you for that. On a serious note, I want to take just a moment. I'm hoping that you'll indulge me in a short prayer, because this is something that weighs very heavily on my heart right now. You know, we're in a world in tumult right now, and what we're seeing happening in Israel is horrendous. It's shocking. It's I can't even come up with words for it. So if you'll join me for just a short prayer. Dear Lord, please watch over our greatest ally and our friends in Israel. Please give them the strength to defend themselves. And please give comfort to the victims who have been so horribly harmed. We ask this in his name. Amen. Thank you. Thank you for that introduction. And I also want to say thank you to the Cascade County Republicans for hosting this event, and to Lola and Steve for all the work that you've done, and for the sponsorship. I really appreciate it. I also want to take my bride, Heather. She's in the back there somewhere. You know, having your family along your side while you're doing this is necessary. It's so hard to do this. It's so hard to put in the time, the hours, and to have somebody that's always by your side. I'm truly blessed to have her there. Heather, I love you. Thank you for being there. And I'd be amiss if I didn't also point out my daughter, Sarah, who's sitting next to her, and her future mother-in-law, Rhonda, from Big Sandy, who's visiting us today. So thank you for being here. Thank you. So my first few months in office, you know, I worked on legislation to repeal a law that had been on the books for 35 years. Now, after 35 years, an insurance company can finally acknowledge that there's a difference between a man and a woman. You know? Something obvious to any reasonable person, but somehow it was missing in Montana code until now. You know, I run a criminal justice agency, and we put bad guys in jail. We partner with industry, we protect consumers, but one of the biggest issues that we deal with, both on the securities and the insurance side, are these crazy ESG policies. And for those in the audience, ESG, no, I'm going to leave the joke aside. And it's a big deal, these environment, social, governance things. There are factions out there right now who are trying to make it impossible for us to develop natural resources, oil and gas, and agriculture. Yes, agriculture. They're doing this by forcing changes in how money is invested and what we can insure. If you can't raise money in public markets, borrow money, or insure your ranch, your oil well, that effectively pushes their UN objective of forcing an imminent net zero carbon footprint with no thought to the industry, to the jobs, to the people, or the way of life that they destroy. This, in effect, will foreclose on the ability to anyone of average means to afford food, energy, heat, transportation. We're here tonight to talk about electing Republicans. And I thank you all for being here to help achieve this. I want to start by saying that we win in the debate of ideas. Our conservative platform is easy to debate. We all do better when we have less government, less restrictions, a constitutional republic, lower taxes. We always do better. We're always better stewards of our money than any government agency. Life, liberty, freedom. These are all easy to debate. And in that debate, we always win. Now, as mentioned earlier, after September 11th, I enlisted in the military. You know, I've deployed to Afghanistan. I've served, and I've lost friends in the fight. I've stood in formation, staring into the sun, tears streaming down my face, watching flag-draped caskets get loaded into C-17s with friends that I had served with 3 days prior. I've been there. How many veterans do we have in the audience? I thank you all for your service. And it was my honor. Now, for all of my veterans, everybody who has served, I just want to say that these great United States of America, this great state of Montana, it's worth fighting for. Now we have the Biden administration tearing down everything that we all fought for. Everyone in this room has fought for. Biden's America is a country of high taxes, open borders, fentanyl on our streets, and inflation we haven't seen since Jimmy Carter.
Biden's America has families struggling to run their businesses, feed their families, heat their homes, manage their farms, buy gas. Biden's America allows crazy transgender agenda to infiltrate our military, our women's sports, our schools, our bathrooms. We must keep this radical transgender agenda out of our military and especially out of our schools. The next generation's in danger of succumbing to this agenda, and we must fight to keep our kids safe. If our youngest generation is lost, all is lost. We must take back our border. Who believes we need to finish President Trump's wall? We must force our government to live within its means. We're spending too much. I'm happy we have champions like Representative Rosendale who are fighting the good fight to rein in spending. We'll stop allowing our government to print money that we just simply cannot afford, buy things we can't afford. This election season, we have incredibly important local elections to win. And we have two heavy lifts, but we can do it together. We must get rid of John Tester and Joe Biden. John Tester can and will be defeated, and we need to work together and continue to use our platform, our voices, our treasure, and our votes to support conservative champions. And I ask you not to just listen to candidates. It's easy to get up here and talk. Don't listen. Look, what have they done? What have they accomplished? Have they been successful in business, in office, in their administrations, in the military? Have they carried your voice, or have they simply carried scandal and division? Please, to the extent that you can, support your GOP central committees, your Republican candidates who need your help to continue winning in Montana. Now, one last part. If Representative Rosendale runs for Senate, Heather and I and our family will prayerfully consider running for the House seat that he now occupies. If this happens, I hope you can find it in your hearts to support us. In the military, I was in the CSAR Squadron, Combat Search and Rescue. I've served you as your Montana State Auditor. I showed up and continue to take action on your behalf. I've produced results, service action results, just like CSAR. I want you to remember that. That's who I am, that's what I've done. And we win in this debate. Thank you all for helping elevate this conversation. And thank you for allowing me to speak to you all. God bless these great United States of America, and God bless Montana.
For those that may have just joined us online, I am Representative Lola Sheldon Galloway, representing House District 22. It is my privilege to introduce to you Elsie Arnson. She was born and raised in Billings, taught school for 30 years in Billings to 5th and 6th graders. Her most proud and pride moments are with her family, a husband of 47 years, her 2 daughters, and her 4 grandchildren. Elsie was the first superintendent of public instruction in 30 years to be Republican. She could possibly be the second Congresswoman ever to represent Montana in Washington, D.C. That's big, I think. I wanted to share with you one experience. I saw Elsie in the hallways fighting the teachers' union day after day after day. There's a fight in this woman that she does not back down. And with that, I'd like to introduce Elsie Arnson to the stage.
Oh, goodness. Good evening. So I am, and Lola, thank you. That was very generous. You should have, it was the school boards. So I had to get 3 sergeant of arms this last session to remove him from the 4th floor because we were doing a school board's election bill where we could put that with the primary or with the general. I believe it's the most important election. And if we could do that, instead of having 5% of the vote out, we would have 65% at least to support our schools. Not just in more money, but recognizing what happens inside the buildings. Steve Heinbaugh, right? Mr. Heinbaugh? First name? Eric. Correct? He is the Central Committee Chair here. So I want to give a big shout out to him as he's going to push forward. I couldn't be in my role. None of us could be in our role this last session if we hadn't had Cascade County go red. I got into office because of Cascade County. You turned 32 years of a held agency bright red. I can't thank you enough. I want to give a great shout out also to a legislator who's running for mayor here. Could you stand, please? Thank you. I served with this man. Thank you. A businessman and now an entrepreneur on his own, doing real estate, right? But more important, you're going to be guiding, and when your election happens here as mayor. So I just want to give you a big shout out, Joe. Thank you. Once a legislator, always a legislator, right? Even if we don't vote for each other's bills, we still have that camaraderie. And I think that is one of the institutions that got me to where I am. I couldn't have done my job, knowing the budget, $2 billion, if I wasn't a legislator. Aren't you proud of the women that came in front of you, and also with Kevin, who came? Because they want to change. They want to make sure that the change that I've made is even stronger. They want to put parental voices in. They want to not sexualize our children. They want to make sure that math and reading and science are taught in our public school system. Is that what you want? Yes, that's what Montana wants. That's what we deserve. As a grandmother with four great grandchildren, I mean, they're great, as well as my own grandchildren right now that are going to the public schools that I went to in Billings. I tell you, it is so exciting that what we've laid the foundation for, and both Susie and Cheryl were under my tutelage at the agency. So I can't say enough, but saying thank you for the work that you have done, and the words that you said today at the podium. It's sincere work that we do. It is difficult work that we do. But just to let you know a little bit who I am, I'm a fourth generation Montanan. My dad was an American history teacher. He came from Sydney, and my mother was born on the Crow Reservation in Bighorn County. And I've lived all my life, except when I'm serving you, in Yellowstone County. But where I live now is in Helena, the seat of government. I have the Elkhorns right behind me, and it's very peaceful, and it reminds me of who we are in Montana. I'm the only one that has filed papers for this congressional seat, and this seat is so important. When I just want to say this, Matthew, when I called all of the governor and Congressman Zinke, and when I visited with you, and then I visited with Senator Daines, he said, Elsie, this is what Senator Daines says, Elsie, you're going to be the number 2 best candidate. We want to keep Matthew where he's at. And I said, Senator, I appreciate that, but I said, I'm a teacher and I'm a planner. And so the ink is dried for at least a month on all my papers that have been filed with the Federal Election Commission. I'm all in. I'm not considering. The United States of America and Montana does not need someone to consider. They need to be all in. I'm all in on serving you. I'm all in, thank you. I'm all in making sure that there is an individual that is principled, very similar what Matt Rosendale did. Raise your hand if you agree with what Matt Rosendale did by vacating the speaker. Matthew, look at that, okay? And I know across our state, that strength and that principled leadership that you showed me when you came into my Business and Labor Committee as just a freshman, that has continued through Matt's life. What I am saying at this point is, you need someone who is committed. My family is committed. All the things that I have done for our children, for our teachers,
to revamp an education system I know in the future will have good hands. Congress also needs good hands. In moving forward, I want you to know that we are 215 days away from when ballots drop. 215 days. Legislators in the room with redistricting and everything, we all have a lot of work to do. I'm going to come back to Cascade County. I thank you. You gave me my job, which every day I get up and I love my work. I want to take my work ethic to Washington. When I'm sworn in 2025, it'll be 110 years since a woman has been sent from the state of Montana. But never before has a mother or grandmother represented the state of Montana. I would like to do that for all of us. Thank you so much. Blessings to you. We have a lot of work to do. I'm in for it, and I know you are as well. Thank you, Cascade County.
Good evening. I'm going to stand out a little further. My name is Scott Kearns. I'm representative from House District 23. Thank you so much for coming to my district here tonight, and thank you for everyone who's put this on. It is my honor and privilege to introduce Ken Bogner. Ken was born and raised in southeastern Montana to a family that first settled there as farming and ranching homesteaders over 100 years ago. Growing up as a Miles City cowboy, he learned the importance of personal responsibility, grit, and what it means to be a Montanan. 2 years after witnessing the events of September 11, 2001, Ken answered the call to military service, joining, sadly, the United States Marine Corps instead of the Air Force upon his 18th birthday. During his 4 years in the Marines, Ken honorably served 2 tours in Iraq, completing missions along the Euphrates River and the Syrian border as a combat engineer. After his military service, Ken attended Columbia University on the GI Bill, then went on to earn a master's degree in public policy from Middlesex University in London in the United Kingdom. And still committed to public service and wanting to give back, thankfully, to his community that supported his family, especially after his younger brother was wounded by an IED in Afghanistan, Ken ran for and won a seat in the Montana State Senate in 2018, becoming the youngest member of the chamber. During his time in the state Senate, Ken has successfully passed legislation to prohibit foreign adversaries from buying critical infrastructure. He's ensured that all Montanan precincts are subject to post-election audits and provided medical patient rights visitation. To protect individual privacy rights as well, Ken currently serves as President Pro Tem of the State Senate, and in his free time, Ken helps on the Bogner Ranch and works to find jobs for his fellow veterans in Montana and spends his time exploring Big Sky country, especially in his really fancy-dancy old pickup truck. Ken Bogner.
I didn't realize how much of my bio is covered in my speech here, so you might hear I'm going to go over some things again, but I'm Ken Bogner. I'm the President Pro Tem of the Senate. I was born and raised in Miles City, but my family had originally homesteaded just south of there in Carter County. They came from Italy and Germany to raise sheep. That has changed. We now do cattle, but we're still there. I had a great childhood. My parents did a great job raising me. I grew up hunting whitetail on the Powder River. I played baseball, football. I got my first job at Reynolds Grocery there in Miles City. Very busy childhood, but it instilled those values in me of hard work and seeing something through once you start it.
There was another event in my childhood that really shaped my future and why I'm here in this position today. And that was September 11th, 2001. I was a freshman at the time in high school. It was really impactful to watch the events that day unfold as a 15-year-old in class. It made me understand that we really are blessed to be Americans and to live here, and that people would want to see our freedoms and our way of life destroyed. It was then that I knew I wanted to serve, to protect our way of life and to fight for our freedoms. So when I turned 18, I went and I joined the Marine Corps. During my 4 years in the Marines, I did 2 tours to Iraq. My first deployment, we were tasked with building combat outposts up and down the Euphrates River. We got attached to an infantry unit, so we'd go into a village, we'd take a house, and we'd fortify it with sandbags and machine gun nests, razor wire. And when we finished, we'd go on to the next village and do the same thing. We just leapfrogged the infantry so that they could do their patrols. The second deployment was a little different. We were tasked with border security on the Syrian border. Iran was sending weapons into Syria, and they were then smuggling them into the insurgents in Iraq. On top of that, refugees were just flooding the border into Syria trying to escape the war. It was quite the experience, but I learned a lot about border security on that deployment. As I was getting out of the Marines, my brother joined up, my younger brother, Chris. 3 years later, while I was at college, I got a call one day from my parents. My mom called me and said, we've got some news. Chris has been wounded in Afghanistan. He was point man on a patrol when an IED went off just a few feet from him. They're not sure he's gonna make it. He's getting flown to Germany, so meet us there. We left to meet in Germany, and that is when the people of Miles City really stepped up. They started prayer chains, they donated money, sent care packages. It was really powerful. Through their prayers and their support, my brother survived. I'm very lucky to be with us today. And the way that the community stepped up and helped my family, it was really special. And I didn't want to see those values die. And that inspired me to run for Senate 6 years ago. I won that election. Now I'm President Pro Tem of the Senate. And during those 6 years, I worked hard to pass some important legislation. One of those being, which you heard, was to prohibit foreign adversaries from buying our critical infrastructure. And we need that passed at the federal level as soon as possible. Thank you, appreciate that. Another bill had to do with prohibiting the government from using facial recognition technology in surveillance. There's no reason the government should be tracking us. We saw that during, thank you. We saw that during the pandemic in other countries and in other states, and that's not going to happen in Montana. I was inspired by the pandemic on a couple other bills. One was Montana Patient Visitation Rights Act, and that requires, it's mandatory now, for patients to get 2 hours of minimum visitation a day, so that we don't see family members alone without their family members by their sides in the last moments of their life. I passed the expanded version of Medical Right to Try, and that allows people to now take the medicines that they want without the government looking over their shoulder. And then finally, I passed the bill that has strengthened election integrity. Now every single precinct in Montana is now subject to post-election audits. Believe it or not, that was not the case before this. So now I'm here before you tonight because I'm encouraged to run for Congress if that seat does open up. And I am up here considering it because there are some major national security and national defense issues that need to be addressed. And it starts with Joe Biden's botched withdrawal from Afghanistan. I just talked about how my brother was lucky to be alive. I have friends that I served with that were not so lucky and didn't make it home. So to then watch Joe Biden botch the withdrawal and cost the lives of 12 more Marines and a Navy corpsman, it was disgusting. It's unacceptable. And there needs to be accountability for this. We lost Afghanistan. We're losing at the southern border. We need to close the border. We need to send the military to the border to take back control. And we're losing to China if we don't push back. I just talked about Afghanistan or Iraq, my experience in Iraq, and arms getting smuggled into Syria. It looks like the same thing is happening with Israel and Palestine. All right, we've got some major national security issues that need addressed. And we need to keep Joe Biden accountable for weakening our military and our national defense. Biden is supposed to be our commander-in-chief. He's supposed to have our mission first. But he's sending billions of dollars to Ukraine's military. At a time when our deficit and our spending is the #1 national security risk in the country. Again, that is unacceptable. We need to take care of America's problems first. We need to stop paying corrupt foreign governments. We should be focusing our efforts at our border and our own national defense. We have to fix these things now. Our country depends on it. My time in the military and the legislature has given me the experience to tackle these issues, so it would be an honor to represent you in Congress if Congressman Rosendale does in fact run for higher office. It's been amazing to meet others tonight that care so much for our country. Thank you, and thank you for your devotion to America. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Jeremy Trevas. I'm the Senate District 13 State Senator here in Great Falls. I'm introducing Jeremy. I think I heard you pronounce it Megland? Megland, okay. Born on the High Line and raised in Hill County, Jeremy learned the necessity of hard work, independence, and family. After graduating from Blue Sky High School, Jeremy attended MSU Northern and applied his skills to auto repair businesses and then turned to building and construction. After his hands-on experiences, Jeremy and his wife Alicia created MIG Inc. and have built and developed over 150 homes in southwest Montana. As a business leader, Jeremy shares the struggles and roadblocks that excessive government creates for Montana businesses. Jeremy, Alicia, and their 9-year-old son Isaac are now committed to taking back America and returning our country to a sensible moral and fiscal foundation. Government is attempting to raise our children, and Jeremy strongly believes in the rights of parents to teach and raise their own children. As a born-again Christian, Jeremy stands for the Constitution and the rights given to legal citizens in the Bill of Rights. Politicians have failed us, and it's time for patriots and citizens to take back our country. Jeremy is standing up for Montana, and we will take our country back. Go ahead. Thanks.
Well, you took half my speech, so I got to make something else up, I guess. So, a few things. Number one, I am not a politician. This is the first race I've ever been in. Politicians are sure screwed up Washington, D.C., I know that. I love my God, I love my family, I love my country, and I love Montana, and I'm telling you, nobody's going to take them from me. So. Or you. So yeah, I am blue collar. That's what I know. We built, me and my wife and my son, we have built 5 businesses together, and to do this, I have sold all 5 of them. They are under contract, waiting to close, trying to figure all that out. So if, like Elsie said, you have to be all in. If that's not all in enough for you, getting rid of my whole, everything I built, I burned it, and we're moving on. So if that's not all in enough for you, I bought 2 suit coats. So, well, I don't think I can get more all in than that. I don't know what else I'd have to do. So, you know, my motto has been in business, and it's on everything I own, is for God and country, because our country was founded on God, was founded on the Bible, and you cannot separate them. And I'm going to tell you this, our country still belongs to God, and we are going to take it back. You know the difference between a patriot and a politician? A patriot only cares about the next generation, and a politician only cares about the next election. And this room is full of patriots. I traveled around with these guys, and you got a lot of good patriots here, so stand up and support them. So a few things I've heard. You know, I'll tell you about my favorite campaign trip. I loved it. I went down to Duckworth, Wool, and Dillon, and they let me work with them for 9-10 hours. So I got to actually go work, because that's what I'm made for. I love working. So, you know, a few things I've heard along the way, and I can't believe this, and maybe they're right, I don't know. They said, I've heard this on one trip, I heard it twice in 1 week, you're too Montanan to be representing Washington, D.C. I'm like, how do you come up with that? Good grief, you know, whatever. Maybe they're right, I don't know. So, I guess, you know, I heard a couple of things I've heard. If you want to look after your family, do like the rest of us, basically run and hide. Go up in the mountains, it's too late, go run and hide. How can I go to sleep at night saying, I looked after my family, I protected my family, and look out the window and watch our country burn? It's time to stop looking in the mirror and start looking out the window, because our country is burning right now. They're burning our Constitution and our flag right in front of us, and we're just letting it happen. So that's a lot of my motivation. You know, another thing I keep hearing is, you don't know what you're getting into. This is such a big thing. You started right at the top. What are you thinking? Just do it normal, like normal people. We'll put you in this seat, we'll put you in that seat. What I have to say to them is, what other choice do I have? I don't have any other choice. What are we going to do? You give me another choice and I'll probably take it. Well, I think we do have another choice, and it's Congressman Rosendale has interest in the U.S. Senate. He has proved to me that he is more than qualified to take control of Washington, D.C., and that's why I ran in the first place, to take control of our federal government. And so, Matt Rosendale, I put my full support. I not only support you, I encourage you to run for the U.S. Senate, because you have proven to me that not only are you capable, but you love Montana and you love our country just as much as I do, born and raised, 5th generation. So, thank you for your fight. With that, I would redirect my fight. I am not giving up on our country, and I'm not giving up on fighting the federal government. I was fighting the federal government before it was cool. I sent a couple of trucks out on a convoy, the vaccine mandate, and I'll tell you, there's hope for our country. I drove 1,300 miles, and I'm telling you, there is hope for our country, and it lays in Middle America, Montana, Idaho, the whole trip out there. That's where our hope lies, Middle America, and people like you and me. That's where our hope lies. So with redirecting it, I have 3 main priorities. I guess this is what I hear from one side of the state to the other, is Convention of States. So some people are against it, completely against it. Some people don't know what it is. I'm for it, not because I believe anybody. I don't trust no one, period, especially when they're trying to push an agenda. So I did my own research, and you know what? I believe in all of the Constitution, and Article 5 is there for a reason. Our founders were smart people. It's there for a reason. I support it, and I have one question that you need to ask yourself if you do not support it. When? When is it going to be too late? At what point? How many times does 20 armed IRS agents have to raid a gun shop? Are you going to wait for them to come to your house and get it? Is that when it's going to be too late, when it's time to stand up and do everything you possibly can? So I will fight the federal government and for the state, here in the state, and I'll let Matt Rosendale worry about Washington, D.C. So the other thing, I went to a lot of the property tax meetings around, and you know, I do feel sorry for the younger generation trying to start out, but I really feel sorry for people trying to retire. How can you retire not knowing what your budget's gonna be next week, next year? You know, I confronted a lot of the legislatures, and it was all a lot of finger pointing, but at every one of them, I confronted the legislatures and I said, you know what? I want everybody here to raise their hand if you can't afford another $50, $100 a month. 20% of the population, they're gonna kick out of their house. They're gonna tax them off their property, and it's mostly elderly and retired that cannot raise more money. They just can't. So the elderly is who I really have a heart for with the property taxes. So, but I asked them, I said, you know what, you guys didn't want to deal with the property taxes. Some of you did, I'm not saying everybody, but a supermajority, and we didn't get a permanent fix for the property taxes. What are you gonna do with this 20% of the population that you're kicking out of their house because you didn't want to get something done? So, property taxes are a big deal for me. Yeah, thank you. And election integrity, that's another thing that I hear a lot of, so I'm really gonna put some time into election integrity. You know what, I'll just say it. Washington, D.C. picking our representatives is far more dangerous than election integrity. So, you know, we got a candidate running for the U.S. Senate, and I'm telling you, if Washington, D.C. learns that they can pick our candidates for us, pick our state representatives for us, that is far more dangerous than election integrity if we let them get away with that by shipping a bunch of money. So I'm not saying anything bad about him at all. He might be the greatest guy in the world, so it's nothing personal, but it's Washington, D.C. is a problem, and if they learn that they can pick our representatives, we're really in trouble, guys. So I guess I'll end on this. Everybody here that has served and wanting to serve, my motivation is to fight for my son, because I'm not handing this country down the way it's going. It's just not going to happen. So we're all fighting for not only our own families, but everybody here, we're fighting for your families too. You have a chance to make a difference, and fundraising is a pain. If you can, you know, if you're trying to choose between putting gas in your car and giving me 20 bucks, I don't want it because you're who I'm fighting for. But if you have the ability to help out, please help out these candidates because we need it. We really need it. So, and you have an opportunity to fight for your kids and grandkids too. So don't miss that opportunity. I'm like everybody else. I hate asking for money, but we do need it, and it will really help us. It will really help us fight for your family. So, anyways, that's it. I hope you can support me, and I appreciate your time. Thanks for having me here.
Good evening, and once again, thanks for coming, everybody. My name is Steve Gist. I'm House District 25 representative right here in Great Falls. I'm happy to see all our Great Falls community here to support us. Tonight, I'm going to introduce a man who I have a great admiration for. Matt Rosendale has been serving the people of Montana for over 10 years now. He was elected to the Montana House of Representatives, where he served 2 years. Then he went on to be elected into the Senate for 4 more years. And this is where his colleagues elected him to be Senate Majority Leader. Then Matt was elected to the Montana State Auditor's position. In 2020, Matt was elected to the U.S. House of Representatives in D.C. He was our Montana's at-large congressional representative. Since then, Montana's gained an extra seat, and in 2022, he was elected to the 2nd Congressional District. Matt's been a fierce fighter against the cartel in D.C. We all see what's going on. Matt's been working to restore order to Congress, cutting spending, securing our open southern border, which is so devastating. Even up here in Montana, we see it. And he is a true champion for our Montana veterans. Matt and his wife Jean have lived at their ranch over Glendive for over 20 years now. They've been married for 38 years. Today's world, that's quite an accomplishment. Matt has 3 sons, a daughter-in-law, and 2 grandchildren, of one he was just telling privilege to introduce Congressman Matt Rosendale.
Even though that, no, sit down. Although you might be just stretching your legs out because I'm the last guy on the list. You know, there's only one thing worse than being the last speaker. That's being the last speaker before happy hour. I mean, then really, folks are really ready to get you out. I'm going to give you an update on what's been going on this week. Obviously, there's been a lot of activity in Washington, D.C. One good thing has come out of this, though. We actually have a job opening now. So before you get out of here, we've got a job opening. I need a food tester. Okay, because we're going to need somebody to come to town with me and start checking all the meals before I eat. So seriously though, it's been a very trying week, and I want to start back to where this all began from, and that was back in January. Everyone remembers the speaker's race, and when we had the 15 rounds of trying to get a speaker elected. A lot of that wasn't just about the speaker. It was about restoring regular order to Congress. We have heard for many, many years about how badly broken Congress is. That's what everybody hears. Congress is broken, that's why I'm running for Congress. We've been hearing it for decades. And it is, and they're right. But the things that are going on in Congress are not that they need to be changed to adapt to what's taking place right now. The problem is, and the reason that Congress is broke, is because they have completely consolidated all the power and the decision making into the hands of the Speaker and to a small group on the Rules Committee, 13 people. And so the rest of the Congress, 422 that would be, because there's 435 total, they're relegated to just voting up and down on issues. And so all of my colleagues that I served with, Elsie and Jeremy and Brian and Steve, that I served with in the Montana legislature and are used to being in a functioning legislative body, which I thoroughly enjoy. Ed, I mean, I didn't serve with you, but that I thoroughly enjoy, it doesn't function like that. We don't bring legislation out to the floor and discuss and debate and amend it in the United States Congress. And that's not what they were doing. So we said, in order to accomplish this, we're going to restore the rules. And we're not going to elect a speaker until we get that accomplished. And so we put things back into place. Not radical deviations from the norm, but to restore Congress so that we had 72 hours to review all legislation before we had to vote on it. What a great idea. So that we had single subject legislation, which is exactly what is mandated in Helena. You bring a bill up, a bill title, and you cannot amend anything else into it. It must fit. Anything that you're going to do must fit within that bill title. We demanded that. We said that we're going to think about this. Make sure that we hold Congress' feet to the fire to deliver the appropriation bills by June 30, which is what the Budget Act of 1974 calls for. Just that you have to do what the law says that you have to do. And so we had a very small majority, everyone knows, and we were able to get these rules put back into place, and that's how Congress was going to be run. And I will tell you something. We passed some extremely strong, good legislation. H.R. 1, domestic energy production, okay? We passed that to increase our domestic energy production, streamline permitting. It's an incredible piece of legislation. Goes over to the Senate, sits there. H.R. 2, it was the most comprehensive and conservative immigration and southern border security legislation, I'm told, that has ever been passed in Washington, D.C. We had the National Defense Act, NDAA Act, okay? Funds our military. We brought that forward, and we were able to get all Republican votes to pass that. They have never done that before. And we did it because we had a small, very committed, principled majority that said, these are things that the American people asked us to do, and we have to do it so that we can look into their eyes and say, we're doing what we ran on. For once, we're actually going to deliver what we campaigned on. And that National Defense Act passed with all those Republican votes, and we took our military and removed funding for transgender surgeries and abortions and battery-operated Jeeps. And that's what the American people want, a military that's focused on protecting our country and being the most effective and feared force on earth. And that's what we actually delivered. And the only place that we ended up having things come unraveled was when Speaker McCarthy negotiated spending documents with the Democrats. Now look, as I said, I love a legislative body. I love the debate, and I love the discussion, and I love the amendment process, because we all think we're smart. We run for office, we've got great ideas, and you think, man, I've got an idea, it's absolutely perfect, and nobody has ever brought this up before. And then you sit in the committee room, and first of all, you find out that it was brought up 10 years ago. And then the next thing you find out is you left a bunch of loopholes in there that everybody else has already been talking about. So that process is incredibly healthy. But there is a huge difference between compromise, okay, and allowing the minority party, the Democrats, to dictate the actual legislation that is going to be passed, especially when the country has given us a Republican majority. And what we saw was, back this spring, everybody had the big discussion about the debt ceiling. Okay, we need to address the debt ceiling. That's the line of credit that the United States has. So we got together, a lot of people did. I was meeting with a group of senators every Wednesday night and House members, and we were trying to figure out what is the best way to address this so we can start changing the trajectory of our spending. We're not going to get a balanced budget overnight. Would I love to? Yeah. I reduced spending when I was the auditor, the commissioner of securities and insurance. I reduced my spending by 23% over a 4-year period. Not the increases. I reduced how much that agency spent by 23%. I know how to cut spending, folks, okay? But I have a whole lot of other people that I've got to deal with and a lot of agencies. So let's change the trajectory. So we were clawing back all the residual money that had not been spent from COVID, and we were going to take that and put it in the bucket. And the new Green Deal spending, and put that in a bucket, and increase the debt ceiling by $1.5 trillion, or until March 11th of 24, whichever came first, okay? We had all these things put together, put it in the package. We're going to increase the debt ceiling, passed it with 218 Republican votes. And before the ink was dry on that document, Speaker McCarthy went to Joe Biden's office and started negotiating against us. The Senate didn't send us back an amended version and said, here's our counteroffer. Anybody who's been in business, offer, counteroffer, comes back around. No. He started negotiating against us, and what he brought was a deal that said, and admitted it to the conference. You know, I didn't like that March 11th, that $1.5 trillion debt ceiling. We're going to kick that out to January of 25. Folks, that exposes us to $4 trillion of additional national debt. That's going to go right on top of the national debt. And we were outraged. And guess what? That didn't have any 218 Republican votes. That had 169 Democrat votes and 145 Republican votes. And that's how that bill got passed out. Then we had major concerns about, okay, if our appropriation bills, which everybody here that's ever served in the legislature knows, you've got H.R. 2, you bring H.R. 2 out, that's top priority, we have to pass our budget, right? Washington is supposed to work that way, but it doesn't work that way, and guess what? Like anything else in this world, if you accept it, if you accept mediocrity, if you accept people not doing the right thing, they're gonna not do the right thing. And again, a small group of us said, we have got to start bringing those bills forward. June 30 came and went, no appropriation bills. July 30 came and went, no appropriation bills. I came back here and spent the month of August traveling around visiting with businesses and elected officials and schools the whole month of August. When we got back August 30, no appropriation bills. So yeah, a group of us got together and said, you will bring the appropriation bills to the floor. Because we demand it. We demand it. And we brought Department of Defense appropriations up, Homeland Security, State and Foreign Operations, which is the State Department, and Agriculture. And we demonstrated within 72 hours that all of those bills could be amended, debated, discussed on the floor, with open rule, with everybody. and hundreds of amendments being proposed. I was there until 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. And quite frankly, I loved it because that is the way our republic is supposed to function, folks. We concluded that work. We passed 3 of those bills. 1 didn't get passed. Okay. I voted for all 4 of those bills. They say we're the caucus of no. No. I'm the caucus of following the laws, following the statute, and having an open rule process so we can actually have a functioning Congress. And so then we knew that we were getting up against this deadline of September 30, which is the fiscal year. This had been engineered, folks. This had been contrived. This didn't happen because the work was not able to get done. It had been engineered, and the appropriation bills have been kept from us to force us into a situation where we had to pass a continuing resolution. And no, I would not vote for it, and there was dozens of my colleagues that would not vote for it as well, because they said that's not how you fund government. A continuing resolution, by very definition, is a continuance of Nancy Pelosi's spending levels and Joe Biden's policies. I spent 2 years voting against both of those, and so I was not going to vote for a continuing resolution. And what happened again? Speaker McCarthy went over to the Democrats. He didn't get 160. He didn't get 170. He didn't get 200. He got 209 Democrats to pass a continuing resolution. That's what he did. And that is unacceptable. If you are going to go to the Democrats to garner votes to pass spending packages that continue to plunge us into financial ruin, you're not a leader of the Republican Party, folks. You're a leader of the Democrat Party. And so while that ink was still drying, he went back to the president and negotiated just one more deal, and that was additional funding for Ukraine. So yeah, we brought a motion to vacate to the floor. That's what we did. We removed Kevin McCarthy on Tuesday. By Tuesday midnight, we had 5 members calling people up saying, I want the job, I want the job. It's amazing. Once you remove the king, then people will step forward. And so we've got a lot of highly intelligent, talented individuals. I will fly back tomorrow, okay? And just so everybody knows, going forward, it's not the end of the world. The first thing that happens, the clerk of court has a list of names that the speaker turned in as soon as he was sworn in. Who's going to be the speaker pro tem? So right now we have Patrick McHenry, who's from North Carolina, representative. He is the speaker pro tem. He can conduct all of the affairs of the floor. Committee work, there's no reason for it to stop. There's 0 reason for it to stop. We can conduct our affairs. So I imagine that by Tuesday you will see, maybe Wednesday, we'll say Wednesday you will see a new speaker elected, and I would say that our desire, my request to the different people is to take a week and a half and conclude the remaining 8 appropriation bills, okay? We could do that in a week and a half. While it's a larger number of bills, the actual money that they govern is dramatically less. It's about $400 billion out of the $7 trillion of total spending that needs to be accounted for. So we can get that done in about a week and a half and send it to the Senate before we bump up against the next continuing resolution, which is right about, go figure, Thanksgiving time. So that's where you're going to see that work coming forward. It's really simple, okay? Everything that Jeremy has talked about, that Rick has talked about, that any candidate out here, Elsie has talked about, all gets controlled by the appropriation bills. Do we have a weaponized government, a rogue set of agencies? You're daggone right. I was at Highwood Creek Outfitters 2 days after that raid took place, okay? Going in there to see what we can do about it. We've got some bad agencies. And the only way that you control out of control agencies is you take money away from them. You take money away from them. The only way that you control people that aren't doing their job, you eliminate them. And if you've got an administration that's not going to eliminate that position, there's another provision that we can only use during appropriations. It's called the Holman Rule. And we can take a specific position and defund it and eliminate it. And so we've got a bunch of those that we're proposing as well. The only way that we're going to force the Biden administration, this terrible rogue administration, to secure our southern border is to do it through the appropriations process and say, this is what we're going to fund for security on the southern border, and if you don't do that, we're not going to fund other sections of government for you. The only way that we increase our domestic energy production is through the appropriations process. We say, you must continue to lease out these federal properties that the courts have told you to do, or we're going to defund additional sections of your government. So the appropriations process is the only way that we're going to accomplish delivering the absolute policies and the agenda that the American people want to see, and we're going to be able to do it in a transparent and responsible fashion. That's why we have to have the appropriations process, folks. So we're going to get back, we're going to start doing that work, and we will get it concluded before the end of this year. And I will tell you, we've got problems. It's a steep hill right now. We're collecting about $5 trillion in revenue, and they want to spend about $7 trillion. We have a total national debt of $33 trillion. And so, I mean, I had the bankers in 2 weeks ago. These guys have heard it. We've been traveling around the last 3 days together, so we've all heard each other's lines pretty well. So my staff tells me that we've got the bankers coming in. They want to meet with me. And I was like, great, have them show up like my first meeting at 7 o'clock. And they said, okay. So when these guys all come in, they've got these suits and ties and everything. And I'm like, who are you? And they said, we're the bankers. And I said, oh, crud. I told them to have you come in first thing. I thought they said it was the bakers. I thought we were going to have some fresh rolls and donuts in here this morning. But the Bankers Association comes in. And I said, okay, take the decimal point and move it 6 places to the left. Six places, not 4 or 5, 6. And let's just call it millions instead of trillions. And if you had a customer that came in, and they had a big farming operation, and they borrowed $10 million, I don't know, 8, 10 years ago, and then the year after that, they had to borrow more, couldn't put anything on the principal, operation just wasn't running right, and they're up to $14 million. And then the year after that, they bump it up to $16 million. And they keep building it up and building it. And I said, in 10 years' time, that thing went from 10 up to $33 million. And then you said, let me see your business plan. And the business plan says, we're going to have to add $3 million a year on that for the next foreseeable future. Would you take that loan? And they're like, no. Not only would we not take it, we'd foreclose on the place. And if we didn't, the people that you hire, the regulators from the federal government, would come in and close my bank. We would have to reject that loan. And I was like, so why are we asking the American people to take that loan then? Because that's exactly what's going on, folks. And what scares me the most is, when we talk about China and we talk about our foreign adversaries, they want to see us fail. China wants to be the world power, not one of the world powers. And they're doing everything they can to change the reserve currency so that the dollar, the US dollar, is not recognized as the monetary consideration, the petrodollars, what they call it. We're helping them. We're helping them. So they've gotten together with Russia. They're dealing with the Saudis. They're using the yuan now. They've got the BRICS countries down in South America. They're trying to get together and use their own money. People say, how long can we continue to pile this debt up? We can pile this debt up until you go to the grocery store and you come out with a half a bag of groceries and you say, my gosh, I just spent X amount of dollars and I used to be able to get 5 bags of groceries. So until we scream enough, they're going to continue to pile it up, or until these other countries change the reserve currency. And if that happens, we will have a financial collapse in this country like no one has ever seen. And that is why I'm in there fighting every day. And quite frankly, I'm tired of being lectured by people that have been there for 20 years and they've been the architects of a $33 trillion debt, and they're going to tell me how I should be running my show. So we've got a small group. It's not a big group, but they're not going to take this any longer. And they're going to fight, and they're fighting for you. And I know that they're going to stand beside me, and we're going to restore Congress, and we're going to restore our country. And God bless all of you for being out there. Eric, are you still sitting in here? The lights in my area. Listen, thank you for helping putting this together. Steve and Lola, you guys are always doing these community events. We really appreciate giving all the folks the opportunity to speak to you, to educate people, to let them hear what's really going on, because there's not too many news programs that you can listen to anymore that are going to give you an unvarnished statement about what's taking place. But I will tell you, everybody that's in this room, you do your part. We're going to do our part, and we will take our government back, because we are a free people. It is a government of the people, by the people, for the people. So stick together. God bless each and every one of you. Thanks for coming out tonight, and I'm still looking for a food tester.
We'd like to thank the people for coming, but one of my principles today, I refuse to campaign on Sunday because it's the Lord's Day. But I'm tired of separating church from state. So today we'd like to leave our candidates with a special blessing given by a friend of mine who gives the greatest blessings. So, you know, in some circumstances, we circle around the people that we bless. I don't know, I'll let you lead that if that's what you want to do. But if you're a candidate today in any race, Cascade County can bring you something that we find very dear to our hearts, and that is the Lord Jesus Christ in your life. We pray at every event. We even do closing prayers at event, because we need all of us to be blessed by the hand of God. So tonight, I've asked Cheryl Thompson, who's just this wonderful little lady with a huge, huge influence of God in this community. So if you would like to come forward as candidates, we're going to give you a special blessing if you just want to stand here in front of the podium. And if you're even a House candidate or somebody running, please stand too.
Does anybody have a Bible? Normally I bring my Bible with me, and I don't know how to run this stupid thing to get the right scripture. So I'm just gonna, does anybody have a Bible? Okay, all right. Okay, well, it was out of Daniel 5 is really what I want.
What do you want?
Daniel 5. So it talks about that Nebuchadnezzar had this dream, and he couldn't figure out what it meant. And so, and all of his sorcerers and everybody, they said, well, you know, just tell us what the dream is, and we'll give you the interpretation. He said, no, you give me and tell me what my dream is about, and then you'll be okay. If you can't do it, I'm going to kill all of you. Aha, okay. So it got around that Daniel, he had an excellent spirit, and that he really knew the living God. And he was part of all of these people that were supposed to be giving good advice. And so he says, hey, just wait a minute, King. Just give me a little bit of time, and we'll come back to you with your request. So he got with the living God, and the Lord showed him what the dream was, what the interpretation was. Daniel had an excellent spirit. So that's what I'm going to pray over you guys, that you have wisdom and the ability to understand righteousness, justice, and fair dealing in every area and relationship, because you guys need supernatural help. And I am behind you 100%, and I am a daughter of the living God, And my Lord Jesus Christ is still a miracle worker. And that's how come we're sending you guys up there, is because we're believing God's going to do miracles with you. And you got chutzpah. Do you know what chutzpah is? It's a Jewish word for guts. We need people with guts. People that are going to do the right thing, like Matt, no matter what. So, Father, I just thank you for each and every one of these precious brothers and sisters, Lord, that have chutzpah, courage, and boldness, Lord. I'm asking you to increase it for them in the name of Jesus, that you would give them dreams and visions in the night ahead of time of the things that they're having to deal with. I'm asking for angelic assistance for them in the name of Jesus, that you give them an excellent spirit, just like Daniel had, in Jesus' name. And I pray for the fear of God to fall upon Washington, D.C., and all this corruption, and I'm asking you to overturn it. So I'm praying the power of the blood of Jesus Christ over each one of you, over your families. I bind up the spirit of retaliation and rebuke it away from you, that you have angelic assistance in the blessing of the Lord everywhere you go. So I'm praying Psalm 121, verses 7 and 8, that the Lord will preserve you from all evil. He will preserve your soul. He will preserve your going out and your coming in from this time forth and even forevermore. And everybody said, Amen. Thank you.
Yeah. Just should have tried it or something. Make sure my mic's back on. And it is so encouraging and so
Here, this way.
okay.
Thank you for the blessing. That was really nice this afternoon. Really gave me some confidence. You know, I was fearful to say this before because it almost seemed like it couldn't be, but when we were standing out in front of the church, we were standing here, these people come, these two ladies that came up together. I didn't say anything at the time, but it was like we had that dream, like we had dreamt that before, and then here they came. It was like, I didn't know, that can't happen like that. They were coming up, and you were gonna, and it was like, I've been here before, but I haven't been here before. It was really strange.
Test, test.
Unzoom me.
It's so easy to get caught off guard. And you look out and there's some little thing that moves and it catches your eye. It's easy
check it out. Okay, I gotta get out. I got 5:30 a.m. I will get the information. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate it. See you all later.
Thank you. Should I find the be ready? We have Mike. Okay. I don't know why I'm trying to do this walking. This is stupid.
completely healthy. Went to a wedding on Sunday, and he died Monday from a urinary tract infection that went
It's like
Sunday.
crazy.
Yeah, yeah, that's wild how fast that messes.
And we're like, oh, I have no idea what to take that one.
Yeah.
So, all right, so hold on, Scott, are we good? I need to get your name, though, because we were like, oh.
Jeremy Migland.
Okay, just a minute.
Yep.
Jeremy.
And then Mygland.
And you're when
United States Senate.
all right. Good to go, Scott? All right, so I'm here with Jeremy, who's running for the U.S. Senate for Montana. My first question for you is, what was your favorite subject in high school?
My favorite subject, shop. I took 7 shop classes in my last 2 years, yeah.
What was your favorite thing? What was your favorite shop class?
We actually had a program that we got to go out and build garages in the public. So we went out, and for farmers and ranchers wanted to build a garage, so we got to get out of school for most of the day and build garages. Yep.
What is your single most largest concern for the state of Montana that you want to address?
The attack from the federal government, federal overreach. You know, we're being attacked. The state of Montana is being attacked. We're under attack from our federal government. So we got to put a stop and rein in the federal government and our rights as citizens. The flow of power is going backwards now. The flow of power was always meant to go from the people to the county commissioners to the state to the federal government. The federal government thinks it goes the other way, and we got to put a stop to it.
What was the single thing that got you interested in doing politics now?
I'm not interested in politics, but what other choice do we got? So I'm going to stand up for my boy and his future. I'm not going to hand this country down the way it's heading right now. It's just not going to happen. So I'm doing this for the boy, and I'm not going to hand this down. Just not going to happen the way it's going.
What advice would you give to young children today about how to protect our rights for government and just our freedom and way of life here in America?
They're like, you know, wake up, take some classes. You know, I heard a guy say, and he's probably right, that we grew up in a different generation, me and you. These kids nowadays don't even know what they lost. They have no idea what they lost. So get a little bit interested in history and see the way that our country used to be, because this ain't the way our country's supposed to run. I know that's all you know, but this isn't the way our country is. So learn some history and get interested and get involved and learn what's going on. You know, I met with, he had 45 employees. He was in concrete, so they're mostly younger kids. And I told them, you can look at me. I've been successful in business. You can look at your boss. You can look at all these successful businesses. But if you kids don't stand up, if you don't stand up right now, you're not going to have the same opportunities we had, and it's going away really fast. So if your kids don't stand up, you're going to lose your country. So.
You mean we're going to lose our country?
We're going to lose our country. Yeah, we're going to lose our country. It's going pretty fast. So you're just not going to have the opportunities if you don't stand up and do something about it. Yep.
Okay. That was the generic off the script conversation, but thank you. Best of luck to you, and thanks for taking a stand and sharing your thoughts.
Yeah, I appreciate you pulling me over and letting me say what I had to say. So.
Well, it's important to know our candidates, right?
Right. Hey, I appreciate you guys doing this.
All right.
Yep, I really appreciate you guys.
Thanks.
Keeping people informed. Great. Thank you.
So if you
Do you have a card that I can?
Do you have a smartphone? Do you see the purple card that?